Okay, so this suit has an interesting theme. It's "Let there be light" with like some imagery, some Christian imagery. How do you resolve the mob life with the religious belief?
You know, most everybody was Catholic, grew up Catholic. The funny thing is, if you would go to on Ash Wednesday, you'd see so many of the guys coming with ashes on their head, and people were saying, "Come on, you know, you guys, you're street guys, you do what you do." But faith played a big part in their lives. I mean, we believed in God, no question about it. We may have justified certain things that we did, you know, because we claimed to be a life of respect and honor. So when we did things, we felt that we were doing the right thing according to our code. So there is a religious, you know, part of that life that we adhere to.
See, I actually believe that the religious, let's say, adherence in the mob was more transparent and more real than, for example, in government, we have politicians pretending to abide to a certain code, and they actually have no morals whatsoever, and you see that a lot. And it's one of the great books I read, I can't remember what I think it was called The Hero's Journey or something along those lines. It's like, you know, the difference between a criminal and a hero is just the outcome of the story. And so when it's you against government, and I read some of your books, and I'm thinking, I like the code that I'm reading because it's clear, it's transparent, and you know what to expect. Like nobody's gonna snake you and expect to live. But then when I see the code being, you know, being sanctified on TV by certain politicians, I'm like, I know you're a liar.
Well, you know, I'm glad you said that. You know, we didn't pretend to be, how could I put it? You didn't elect us to take care of, you know, your let me say this right. You didn't elect us, put trust in us to take care of your welfare, your benefit, protect you. We were who we were. You know, we didn't make any bones about it. However, in our neighborhoods, you didn't mess in our neighborhoods. We took care of the people in our communities and our neighborhoods. That's why most of us were loved within our own communities, because we took care of things. But we didn't pretend to be something that we weren't. And that's the difference, I think, today with politicians. They take an oath to serve and protect and, you know, uphold the Constitution, and they do just the opposite. They're there for their own, you know, personal benefit and their own personal gain, and it's upsetting. It's hypocrisy.
Yeah, as I've gotten older, I think I've gotten a little bit more conservative in my view of the world. Like, for example, I spent a lot of time in Dubai and the UAE, which is effectively a dictatorship, but it's a benevolent dictatorship. So there's clear expectations, and clear expectations have no crime and no subversion of rules. And that's what I like about clear expectations. So in a lot of ways, you know, I found myself asking sort of this existential question, right? Would I rather have clearly defined concrete rules where the consequence of me betraying society, because, you know, when you're getting a hit on you, and I don't want to go into your world and speak your language, so correct me if I'm wrong. When you're getting a hit on you, it's basically because you're participating in socially destructive behavior. You're doing something that undermines the community. You know, and I'm of a Jewish background, so in my faith, you know, there's 3 tenets to protecting the tribe, and one of those tenets is you don't undermine your community. And so to me, that dictatorship, the benevolent dictatorship, makes a lot of sense.
Well, let me tell you, we had clearly defined rules that you accepted when you became part of the life. For instance, during my day, and I get a lot of, you know, blowback on this, during my day, drugs were off limits. We were not allowed to deal with drugs. We were told if you deal with drugs, you die. Now, it's not to say that some guys weren't dealing with, I mean, you know, they were street guys, a little bit here and there on the side, but we were not major drug dealers. You dealt with drugs, you put yourself in a bad situation. You never raised your hand to another made guy. You do that, could be your life at stake, right? You never messed around with another guy's wife, daughter, sister, mother. Off limits. So they were clearly defined. And if you violated the rules, you knew what the consequences were. You know, and I like that. I like that, you know, so you know you got to stay within policy, stay within the rules, and, you know, you should be okay.
Not raising your hand at another made guy makes perfect sense to me, because when you're, you know, you do a lot of corporate gigs, you speak to, you know, companies, and you talk about leadership, right? It's like, why wouldn't you raise your hand at another made guy? I'll tell you why, because it shows the guys, the class that's coming up, it shows them that leadership's divided. And it creates opportunities for subversive behavior and lack of trust in your leadership. And so you're going to have a problem with somebody, you hash it out face to face, and you do it in private. And we do that in our company too. It's like, hey man, I'm a CEO of a company. I'm not going to make no mistakes in my life. You know, you're going to observe me through hundreds or tens of thousands of iterations over my next 50 years of my career. I'm going to screw up sometimes. You know, and I want you to tell me when I screw up, and you're going to screw up sometimes too if you're a partner in our company. But we're going to solve that face-to-face sitting down without making a community spectacle of it.
And that's the way to do it. You know, the funny thing, I wrote a book, it was a business book, I'll Make You an Offer You Can't Refuse.
I like that book.
And within that book, you read it.
Yep.
Okay, we talk about a sit down and that there were clearly defined rules of a sit down. You never disrespected the party across, the table from you. If I knew that person was lying, I couldn't even call him a liar. Couldn't do it. We had to have certain rules, and at the end of that sit down, things were resolved. If you win, you win. If you lose, you lose, but you walk away shaking hands and you respect. It was so attractive to my publisher, HarperCollins at the time, that they said, Thomas Nelson, HarperCollins bought them out, that they said, from now on, we have no more meetings. We only have sit-downs because we want to resolve things. We don't want people talking out of turn. We want them to be effective and get things done. And that's what they started to do.
Well, face-to-face creates empathy, and that's important too.
Absolutely.
That's why we have road rage. It's like, I was watching a documentary about road rage. Just completely out of the blue here, but people get angry when they don't see the other party, and they start to assume what other people are thinking, what their motives are. And what I've discovered over, let's say, my 12 years of building this organization, and I guess the 6 years prior to that building a different organization, is a lot of problems are created because we assume somebody else has nefarious motives. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, they're just stupid.
That's absolutely right.
And then you immediately like, oh, you're not evil, you're just dumb. And that's okay, because sometimes I'm just dumb too.
That's right. Absolutely right. I agree with that.